Yeah, in our topic of today, we shall be discussing whether African economies are shaped by unilateral desires, so individual economies of a state. And our question would be, are African economies shaped by individual unilateral greed, or it is always collective interest for global development? We have seen a lot of things happening in Africa right from the days of independence, but we have not yet discovered whether the goal of this is to find the Africa developing or it is all about an individual country in the West maintaining the surge of power, as in the first world countries, the second world countries, and the third world countries. So the question is, are global players responsible of the situation in Africa? Look at the countries, especially in Burundi. Look at Sierra Leone. These are countries that we explain and they cry every day whether we may get out of this economic shambles, so we may remain in that kind of a state. But we notice that we are just the same. The poorest countries in the world that are known that will never get out of the poverty line, despite the East African Community Integration bid that by the year 2050, all East African states shall be in the middle income status. And of course, the possibility of such is very low if you look at the indicators and the yardsticks of success of these kinds of projects. So, let us look at unilateralism as a desire of a state to have satisfactory decisions and influence in the world that benefit him or herself alone without considering their proxies or allies. We have seen a lot of blocks, economic blocks, political allies, proxies in the world right now. We've seen the BRICS, which is the bloc of Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, with the recently updated states joining or nations. You can look at NATO, you can look at the EU, you can look at the Group 20, G20, okay? You can see the G5 plus one, we can see G9, G14, G77 plus one, which is China. So the global players are trying to have their positions. For example, you can see in G77 plus China, China says that I'm not equal to you. So I should not be part of you to be said G78. This China says, say G77 plus one. That's a question, which means it is a big player in the decision making of the world economies. So our question still remains, are the African economic situations right now determined by the greedy feelings or the need to decide how the world should be? Equality, growing together, development for responsibility, and any other case of oneness. You realize that nothing is about collective economy. All of it is about unilateralism, individual greed. Let us look at the days of history in determining the Africa today. Let's look at the economy of Congo in particular. We understand that Congo is very fertile. Alone, its resources in the belly of Congo, DRC, is able to feed the rest of Africa, and Congo has over like 60% of the global rare minerals or rare earth metals. So, in 1996, we saw Laurent Kabila coming into power, fighting against Mobutu Sese Seko, one of the corrupt leaders Africa has ever had. What happened? countries of Angola, countries of Uganda, countries of Rwanda helped Laurent Kabila to come into power. However, 1 year later, we see Uganda and Rwanda fighting against Kabila. What is the problem? Because Kabila has realized that these are not countries that I would associate with. He goes ahead to tell Uganda and Rwanda that since you have helped me to fight against this corrupt man and also the harbor of the hostile rebel groups of Rwanda, he has harbored them here in Rwanda. He's meaning that Mobutu, could you now go back? There is now peace. Go back now. Rwanda says, never. I will never go anywhere because I still have the terrorists or the rebels that ran from Rwanda and they're hiding in Goma, Eastern Congo, the border with Rwanda. So at the end of the day, we see Rwanda refusing. And of course, Uganda was establishing her strategic hand in this region of East Africa or in the interlacustrine region. So Uganda says, Rwanda, let's not withdraw from Congo. So the situation becomes alarming. Uganda fights, Rwanda fights. They fight against DR Congo. They are fighting against Laurent Kabila. And it is believed that America, United States of America, had a hand in this war. Whereas Namibia, Zimbabwe, and Angola fight on the side of DR Congo, fighting against Uganda, fighting against Rwanda. And this is called the African World War because it involved over 8 African countries for the first time in the region. So this situation was followed, especially in Zimbabwe, by an alarming position of opposition because the minority whites in Zimbabwe were not happy since they're in the position of what? America. So they had to look for the way of overthrowing Robert Mugabe. And in the process of overthrowing him, we see that Robert Mugabe refuses. They had to introduce what we call the structural adjustment program, which is the devaluation of the economy of the Zimbabwean dollar. And still, they had to ask Zimbabwe that since you have violated human rights, you have taken land back from the whites, you have given it back to the people without compensation, we are sanctioning you. They had to sanction Robert Mugabe and a few government officials of Robert Mugabe. So you can see that the economy is getting to be shaped. Economy of Zimbabwe. Back in Congo, it is also being disturbed to the core. Economy is brought down. Uganda later on is blamed for fighting against Congo. Is being summoned to the ICC. Uganda refuses. So these are kind of economies we are living in. Economies that are determined by the West, by the global West. In fact, first world countries to make sure that you're fighting below the bottom line. As for them, they are progressing or succeeding from your fights. Let us look at it also on the sides of West African countries. Currently, we have seen Burkina Faso, we have seen Mali, we have seen Niger, we have seen Guinea, all of them having military governments and formation of the Sahel states, alliance of the Sahel states. And of course, they're being sanctioned by ECOWAS, European Union, the UK, and other French or Francophones countries. Our question again comes like, if we need to change our own form of government under which we wish to live under, why do you have to intervene? What is it? So the West has to always intervene because It has to benefit them. If a regime comes to power and is not going to work for them, then why are they supporting it? Why? They will never support it because it does not work for them. So when you look at the ideas of unilateralism, a state working to make sure that it promotes its interest, you'll never find the idea of neoliberalism, whereby free markets plus less government or global integration of economies. This turns into a hard hitting and important issue that is over here in Africa. What do you expect in this kind of economy, whereby people are the ones in charge, and sometimes we call it the modern capitalism? You expect the government to have less concern or less control over the economy, and instead these people control the trade.